Customize keyboard shortcuts. Customize keyboard shortcuts. Photoshop lets you view a list of all shortcuts and edit or create shortcuts, and the keyboard shortcuts dialog box serves as a shortcut editor and includes all commands that support shortcuts, some of which aren't addressed in the default shortcut set. And in addition to using keyboard shortcuts, you can access many commands using context and sensitive menus and that are relevant to the active tool and selection or panel. To display a context sensitive menu, and right click in the document window or panel. So what about define new keyboard shortcuts? If you'd like to define a new keyboard shortcuts, what should you do? Do one of the following. Choose Edit, then Keyboard Shortcuts. Then you can choose Windows, then Workspace, then Keyboard Shortcuts and Menus, and click the Keyboard Shortcuts tab. And step number 2. Choose a set of shortcuts from the set menu at the top of the Keyboard Shortcuts and Menus dialog box. And step number 3. Choose a shortcut type from the shortcuts from menu. And application menus. What about application menus? Application menus lets you customize keyboard shortcuts for items in the menu bar, and panel menus lets you customize keyboard shortcuts for items in panel menus, and tools lets you customize keyboard shortcuts for tools in the toolbox. And so what about task spaces? Task spaces lets you customize keyboard shortcuts for the content aware, fill and select and mask workspaces, by the way. And step number 4, in the shortcut column of the scroll list, select the shortcut you want to modify. And step number 5, type a new shortcut, and if the keyboard shortcut is already assigned to another command or tool in the set, an alert appears. Click Accept to assign the shortcut to the new command or tool and erase the previously assigned shortcut. And after you reassigned a shortcut, you can click Undo changes to undo the change, or click Accept and go to Conflict to assign a new shortcut to the other command or tool. Step number 6. When you are finished changing shortcuts, do one of the following. To save all changes to the current set of keyboard shortcuts, click the Save Set button. Then changes to a custom set are saved. And if you are saving changes to the Photoshop defaults set, the Save dialog box opens and enter a name for the new set and click Save. And to create a new set based on the current set of shortcuts, then click the Save Set as button in the Save dialog box and enter a name for the new set in the name text box and click Save. The new keyboard, by the way, shortcut set will appear in the pop-up menu under the new name. And to discard the last saved change without closing the dialog box, click Undo. And to return a new shortcut to the default, click Use Default. And to discard all changes and exit the dialog box, click Cancel. Note and be careful please here now. If you haven't saved the current set of changes, you can click Cancel to discard all changes and exit the dialog box. And how to clear shortcuts from a command or tool. How to clear shortcuts from a command or tool. We have 3 steps. Step number 1, choose Edit, then Keyboard Shortcuts. Step number 2, in the Keyboard Shortcuts dialog box, select the command or tool name whose shortcut you want to delete. Step number 3, click Delete Shortcut. And if you'd like to delete a set of shortcuts, what should you do? If you'd like to delete a set of shortcuts, we have 3 steps again. Step number 1, choose Edit and then Keyboard Shortcuts. Step number 2, in the Set pop-up menu, choose the shortcut set that you want to delete. Step number 3, click the Delete icon and then click OK to exit the dialog box. View a list of current shortcuts. If you'd like to view the list of the current shortcuts, what should you do? To view a list of current shortcuts, export them to an HTML file which you can display or print with a web browser. We have 3 steps. Step number 1, choose Edit, then press Keyboard Shortcuts. Number 2, from the shortcuts from menu, For menu, choose a shortcut type, then application menus and panel menus or tools. Step number 3, click summarize. Click summarize. Grid and guides. Grid and guides. Position with guides and the grid. Guides, by the way, and the grid. Guides and the grid help you position images or elements precisely, and guides appear as non-printing lines that float over the image, and you can remove and you can move and remove guides. You can move and remove guides, by the way, and you can also lock them so that you don't remove them by accident. And what about smart guides? Smart guides help you align shapes and slices and selections, and they appear automatically when you draw a shape or create a selection or slide, and you can hide smart guides if you need to. And the grid is useful, by the way, for laying out elements, and the grid appears by default as non-printing lines but can also be displayed as dots. And guides and grids behave in similar ways. We have selections. Selection is meaning selection. Borders and tools snap to a guide or the grid when dragged within each screen, not image pixels, by the way. Guides also snap to the grid when moved, and you can turn this feature on and off. And guide spacing, along with guide and grid visibility, and snapping in is specific to an image. And grid spacing, along with guide and grid color and style, is the same for all images. How to show or hide a grid guides or smart guides? You should do the following. Do the following, please. Choose view, then press show, then press grid, and then press view, then press show, then press grids, and choose view, then show, then smart guides, and choose view, then extras. Then this command also shows or hides layer edges and selection edges and target passes and slices. Place a guide. How to place a guide? If you'd like to place a guide, we have many steps. Step number 1: if the rulers are not visible, choose view and then press rulers, and note here now and be careful for this point. For the most accurate reading, view the image at 100%. Magnification, or use the info panel. And step number 2: do one of the following to create guide. Choose view, then press new guide, then in the dialog box select horizontal or vertical orientation and enter a position and click OK, and drag from the horizontal ruler to create a horizontal guide, like a screenshot now. Dragging to create a horizontal guide, and hold down Alt Windows or Option Mac operating system and drag from the vertical ruler to create a horizontal guide, and drag from the vertical ruler to create a vertical guide, and hold down Alt Windows if you use Windows or Option if you use Mac operating system, and drag from the horizontal ruler to create a vertical guide, and hold down Shift and drag from the horizontal or vertical ruler to create guide that snaps to the ruler sticks, and the pointer changes to a double-headed arrow when you drag a guide. And step number 3, optional. If you want to lock all guides, choose view, then press lock guides. How to move a guide? If you'd like to move a guide, what should you do? We have the steps. Step number 1: select the move tool, or hold down Control if you use Windows, or Command if you use Mac operating system to activate the move tool. Step number 2: position the pointer over the guide, and the pointer turns into a double-headed arrow. Step number 3: move the guide in any of the following ways. Drag the guide to move it, and change the guide from horizontal to vertical, or vice versa, by holding down and Alt if you use Windows, or Option if you use Mac operating system, and as you click or drag the guide. And align the guide with the ruler by holding down shift as you drag the guide, and the guide snaps to the grid if the grid is visible, and view snap to and press grid is selected. How to remove guides from the image. You should do the following. To remove a single guide, drag the guide outside the image window, and to remove all guides, choose view, then select clear guides. That's perfect, great. And set guide and grid preferences. What should you do if you'd like to set a guide and grid preferences? Do one of the following. If you use Windows, choose edit, then press preferences, then press guides, then press slices. Then press guides and grid and slices. And if you use Mac operating system, what should you do? Choose Photoshop, then press preferences, then press guides and grid and slices. Step number 2. For color, choose a color for the guides and the grid or both. If you choose custom, click the color box and choose a color and click OK. Step number 3. For style, choose a display option for guides or the grid or both. Step number 4. For grid line every, enter a value for the grid spacing. For subdivisions, enter a value by which to subdivision divide the grid. If desired, change the units for this option, and the present option creates a grid that divides the image into even sections. And for example, choosing 25 for the present option creates an evenly divided 4x4 grid. And step number 5, press and click OK to execute. And what about work efficiently with smart guides? Smart guides, by the way, come in handy in several scenarios, such as the following. Option if you use Mac OS, Alt if you use Windows, plus drag a layer. And when you drag a layer while keeping the option if you use Mac, or Alt if you use Windows, key pressed, Photoshop displays reference measurement guides, by the way, showing the distance between the original layer and the duplicate layer. This feature works with both the move and pass selection tools, like this screenshot now. Distance between the layer original and duplicate. Pass measurements. What about the path measurements? By the way, Photoshop displays measurement guides while you are working with paths. Measurement guides and are also displayed when you select the path selection tool and then drag a path within the same layer. Like this screenshot. Path measurements. And what about matched spacing? Matched spacing is meaning when you duplicate or move an object, Photoshop displays measurement guides to visually indicate spacing between other objects that match the spacing between the selected object and its immediate knife pores. And what about CMD if you use Mac, and Control if you use Windows, plus hover over a layer, and you can view measurement guides while working with layers with one layer selected. Hover over another layer with the CMD if you use Mac and Control if you use Windows, and the key pressed. You can use arrow keys in conjunction with this feature to nudge the selected layer, like this screenshot. Measurement guides while working with layers, this is screenshot. And distances. What about distances from the canvas? Distances from the canvas when you hold down the CMD if you use Mac and Control if you use Windows key while hovering outside a shape, and the Photoshop displays distances from the canvas, like this screenshot now. Distances of a shape from the canvas here now. And the spacing between matched objects